Have you ever found yourself saying, why am I like this? Why do I keep doing these things even when I don't want to be doing them? If you've ever tried to instill a new habit and you found yourself back into your old patterns that drive you crazy and keep you stuck, this episode's for you.
Welcome back to the Pursuit of Happy Will podcast. We're excited for you to join us today for a very special edition.
Is it a special edition?
I think it is. I mean, it's
theme song, please.
Yeah, we really do got to get some kind of like little sound pad.
We need a
over
little
here.
jingle. Love it. Yeah, welcome back. We're excited about this episode. It's going to be short, sweet, punchy, and probably give you something to think about. So what we're talking about is if you've ever found yourself saying, why am I like this? Why do I keep doing this? I know I've said it. I think I've heard my kids say it. I think we all have said it at some point, especially when it comes to trying to make improvements or specifically instill new habits. What's an area where you feel like you've said that, Scott?
Well,
don't say Oreos or treadmill. You cannot.
Say Oreos.
You cannot.
I really was just going to say Oreos because, I mean, don't we all? If
you're just now dropping into this podcast, you're like, why'd they bring up Oreos in a treadmill? For some reason, it makes its way into every episode. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's just keep with the theme. Yeah.
Let's just get it out in the open from the get-go.
I'll do one if you're not going to be honest.
Well, I will. Go ahead.
I think it's for me, it's like my refusal. I think I'm just going to call it that.
I think I know what it is.
What?
To go to bed early?
Yeah. It's like, why don't I just go to bed early? Like, I know I'd have more time. I'd wake up more refreshed, but no. I have a sweatshirt that literally says, it's a skeleton holding a book that says, just one more chapter.
No truer image explains you.
Yep, it's so true. Yeah, that's mine.
Good.
Why do I?
I think mine is, I'm just realizing this because last night, actually, I was up super, super late working on some workflows and automations. And I think I've found that I like to dabble. And I think that the dabbling is actually a part of what we're talking about today.
Ooh, is it avoidance, Scott?
100%.
Oh, I knew it. Okay, this is going to be a good one. It's going to be juicy. All right, so buckle up. It's going to be a good episode. No one rides free here. Everyone's going to get called out. So essentially what this episode is going to be about is really uncovering why we do the things we do, even when it doesn't serve us in the long term. It might offer some temporary relief in the short term, but it doesn't really serve us in the long term. So for example, procrastination. If you are a procrastinator, you might have said like, why do I procrastinate? Why do I do this? Why do I wait till the very last second to do things? I am like this. But oftentimes the reason why we procrastinate is it's a form of alleviating, some pressure that we're feeling. So when we push it off, it might provide temporary relief, but what it actually does is it compounds the pressure later on. And for some of us ADHDers, we're like, yeah, under pressure. Let's go.
Gosh, this episode is going to be us singing little
I don't know.
Little jingles and
We're
things.
about to find out.
I think that's 100% right. Like, so I think about these moments in my life where I try to make a change. And whether I'm adding a new habit, I try to habit stack, all these types of pieces. And I make these grand plans and I'm really excited about what's going to come. And I think that the phrase that's just coming back to my head right now is a quote from Mike Tyson that says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Oh, that's so good.
And I think it's this idea that I'm relating it to our topic today is that everyone has a plan for what they want to instill. They have a dream, they have a hope. They're like, this is a picture I want to create. Maybe they've journaled about it. I have a vision board about what it's going to be. But then when the rubber hits the road, when it's time to implement, we're very unaware of what the costs are, what I need to overcome, how to implement, the gap in between it. And then we get punched in the face and all of a sudden everything we planned just goes out the window.
Yeah. And so this doesn't just show up in your habits. It shows up in every area of your life. So maybe for you, it's why do I keep responding to that person in that way? Why do I keep, letting that thing bug me? Why do I go off when things like this happen? Why do I retreat? Why do I, avoid conflict? Why do I avoid boundaries? Why do I, it's essentially like, why am I the way that I am? And I think a lot of times we say that from a place of frustration instead of from a place of curiosity. Like, wait, why am I like this? Because obviously we do things like our brain only does things when it knows it serves us or we get something out of it in some way. So, for example, lack of putting in a boundary or something. It's like, oh, why do I have such a hard time instilling a boundary? Well, because if I was to instill a boundary, I could potentially disrupt the peace. This person could be upset with me. And so really when you understand, like, why do I not enforce boundaries? It's like, oh, because I'm afraid of not belonging, or, we can actually get to the bottom of it. But really what this is all about is uncovering your hidden stress response. And I want to unpack that a little bit because it's not stress in the way you think. It's not like, oh, I'm so stressed out about this upcoming project. Stress is any type of strain that your body or your nervous system is not prepared for. Strain of like, some things could be as simple as a stressor is, one thing that was really shocking to me was when I was on my health journey, my coach said, did you know that being on a diet or a calorie deficit is a stressor to your body?
Yeah.
It puts your body in a state of stress, and you're not supposed to be in that state of stress for a long time. Or it could be a career change, you just got that email from someone and you suddenly feel that pit in your stomach. That's a stressor. There's a lot of ways that your body interprets stress, not just like an upcoming deadline, but that certainly is one.
Yeah.
So it's all about how our bodies react to stress in order to regulate or how we mitigate the perceived threat. So I call it the grizzly bear.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So part of this is we're going to talk about what creates or how to create awareness in that. But before we get there, I think sometimes when we hear the word stress, we can all go, oh man, I know stress. I know what stress is. It's this thing, it's that thing. And we can think of the cause, but not necessarily how we're dealing with that, coping with that, which is what we're getting at, is like how we cope with that stress.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because part of awareness is not just about the stress itself. It's about how we handle it. But sometimes what we do is we just go, man, something's stressing me out. I need to get all of these things off of my plate. And then we just start looking for resources. Some of the stuff we talked about a lot on this podcast is we start reading, we reach for books, we reach for guides, we look for a new journal, we look for a habit tracker, and we start trying to mitigate the feeling we have inside of ourselves by throwing spaghetti at the wall, just looking for a fix.
So it's super interesting that you even brought that up, because that's one flavor of coping.
Okay,
so somebody reaching,
fair.
but it's good. I think somebody that's like, I need to reach for all the solutions, consume a bunch of information, and they become a flurry of activity when they feel that stress inside their body, which could be urgency, anxiety, a little bit of restlessness. That's all how you are interpreting stress. And so some people will feel that and immediately go to like problem solving mode. They cannot help themselves. They're in it. They're like, let's go. They roll their sleeves up. They activate. They take action when stress comes up for them. They're the solution seekers. They're like, all right, what do I got to do? They're at the front. They're at the front lines. They're like, let's go. That's actually, when we're looking at your nervous system, we have 4 responses to stress or perceived threat. And by the way, unfortunately, our nervous systems, our body cannot understand the difference between a grizzly bear coming after us and somebody sending an email that's triggering or potentially sets us off. It's the same. It's the same thing. So what you just described is the person that's reaching for all the solutions. That's a fight response. That's somebody that is like, their way of dealing with stress is they automatically go into problem solving. They have to conquer stress. And that makes them successful in a lot of areas. Like,
yeah.
They're leaders. They are calm often in a crisis. Like, I know for me, I have even said this about myself, like, me and stress, we do good together. And my therapist is like, we need to unpack that.
That is not healthy or normal or something you should pride yourself on.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think I did. And so, that's a fight response. There's also 3 others. There's flight, there's freeze, and then there's fawn. Do you want to talk about one of the other ones? Like,
well, before we, I think many of us have heard those responses, right? And I don't think it's too unfamiliar. We'll get into that in a minute. But one thing I want to ask though is like, I think before we even get into our responses, I think culturally, what we try and do, I think many of us, we try to just remove stress. Like, is that even possible?
No, because I think stress is actually I think we actually need to look at is what are healthy levels of stress.
Yeah.
Because I think when we are not engaging in some type of stressor, which is, making us better, forcing us to strengthen certain areas in our life, or maybe we're using creative solutions, or maybe we're learning about ourselves. I think maybe now, listen, this is just my opinion. I'm not a licensed psychologist or anything like that. I think when there's a lack of any type of stressor, I think actually depression can set in. Because I think we find some purpose in natural and healthy stressors, like things that require us to rise above, find our potential. I think there are healthy levels of stress. For example, like with weight training, we're putting strain on a muscle. In order to grow the muscle, you have to put strain on it.
Yeah.
But too much strain, you injure it. So same thing to the body and the nervous system. Like there's like healthy learning. This is where resilience comes from. But if we put too much strain on it, we have a natural collapse. Like if we do not know how to mitigate it or cope with it in a healthy way.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. I just think about like, the idea that a body in motion stays in motion, and that being in motion is a type of stress. And like you said, like too much, you injure yourself. Case in point, my calf earlier January, right? But also not enough, and you start to atrophy, right? And in the whole body as a unit, if you're sitting on the couch the whole time, it just starts to weaken and ache because it's not being used, right? The oils, if you will, if you know the fitness topics, right? Like things aren't being lubricated, right? Like your joints aren't moving, and so sitting still actually causes some things to break down, right? And to lose its strength.
Yeah.
Because it's not under that stress.
I think it's the same if we're not engaging in our daily life. I think our mental health erodes. Like our mind atrophies, our creativity, our soul atrophies when we are not engaging in our lives meaningfully.
Goodness, I think there's so much.
That's a whole nother podcast. I feel like that should go on a t-shirt. We say that.
Yeah, we have a really a phrase that continues to stick with me. With the company that we just launched, from one of our coaches that just talked about, it's nothing more sad than seeing someone live a life by default.
Yes.
And I think that's indicative of not willingly or choosing to engage
meaningfully. Yeah.
In your life. And it could be a response of like not dealing with any kind of stress, avoiding stress at all costs.
Yeah.
Removing yourself, which in that case, which category does that fall into in terms of those core four, right? That's definitely not
wanting to like eliminate stress, like it be gone. I think it could be a few. I mean, fight, they want to conquer it. So how do I conquer, solve, remove the thing that is causing stress? All of them are looking to eliminate stress in some, it's all of them. All of them are looking to eliminate or mitigate stress on some level. So going back to that, it's like, all right, so we have our flight. It's me. They are like, they can be the least connected with understanding that they're actually under stress because they'll just busy themselves. And often with the activities that don't really move the needle, they will busy themselves. They will be the people that they're busy, they're productive, but not always in the things that matter. Yeah. So they will have a list of to do, like of the things that are hard.
Canva.
Stop it. Stop. That is my creative outlet, Scott Boss. But seriously.
I have my own too. I get it.
I know you, Mr. You tinker in your automations, like
AI and
workflows. For sure. But here's the thing, like with Flight, it's they will have a list of like the 3 most important things that they need to do in the day. And they will accomplish everything but those 3 things. They will clean their house. They will scroll. They will work on they are fantastic at side quests.
Pillow fluff.
fluff pillows on their couch, clean. Oh, why are this?
I just
you
bring
were just calling out all my stuff.
No, I'm tying in all of the podcast episodes.
Whatever. So again, this person, they're busy, but they're not productive. And also usually they're exhausted by the end of it because they're like, I feel like I'm doing all the things, but I'm not making any meaningful progress. Well, it's because they're not able to sit down and do the things that actually matter. Why? Because they're having their nervous system, their body is having a stress response to those tasks for whatever reason. And their way of mitigating the stress is running from it. And running and like flight could look a couple different ways. Flight could be, busying yourself with other activities, or it could be like numbing yourself out, being like, I just need to not feel the stress. So I'll eat, I'll shop, I'll drink, I'll avoid, I'll read, anything to not feel this. So that's flight. Freeze is like you shut down. And what's interesting is a lot of people think that they have perfectionistic tendencies in this, but it's not about getting it right or getting it perfect. It's about not being wrong. It's like, it's not about, me needing to hit a certain standard. It's more like I'm so terrified of getting it wrong. I need to keep gathering information to ensure I can make the next right move.
Yeah.
So that would be freeze. That is the person that like will get lost for hours and hours just consuming information and analyzing, and like they're buying all the courses, reading all the books, but they're not able to even make any forward traction. It's just because like forward traction doesn't feel safe to them. Like again, there's the stressor. So they soothe their stress by research. That's how they soothe. And then lastly is our fawn. These are people that harmonize around them. This is like they look at a stressor and they're like, okay, I just need to make sure everybody around me is happy. If you're happy, I'm happy. This is quite common for caretakers. I think this could either be how you naturally are, or maybe you found yourself in this role for a while, but this is like, they could have their goals of what they want to accomplish in the day. But as soon as somebody around them has a need, the first thing that is sacrificed is their goals, their priorities, their health, their well-being, in order to make sure everyone around them is okay at a great cost to themselves. So they're trying to manage their environment, their internal chaos with like making everyone else around them happy.
Yeah.
So that's our fawn. Those are the ones that are honestly, I saw this a lot with people I coached, is like, I saw them, they needed to make the money for a business, but the business took a back seat because they constantly felt like they had guilt for sitting down to work on their business when they're like, but my family needs me. But what if I'm not being a present parent? But what if this? But what if this? So constantly getting lost in that. So the whole reason we're talking about this is to create awareness around like, hold on, this isn't like, you're not wrong. This isn't, and we've made the mistake of assigning this as personality types, when actually this is just how you soothe when you feel stress.
Yeah. And something we probably won't get into this particular podcast today, but maybe as another episode, is how these play out and affect, if you're a business owner or you work in C-suite or an executive, that these have implications across the board. This isn't just in terms of, interpersonal relationships. This isn't just in terms of business relationships. And how these show up can really be impacting you both in how close or connected you are, the loops that you continue to find yourself in, or the fact that maybe you're just not getting that promotion. Right?
Yeah.
Or you're hitting that ceiling over and over and over again because of how you're handling your stress.
Actually, that was one of when we went and did a presentation to business owners, I actually presented, here's why your stress type is actually impacting your ability to scale, to increase your profitability, and to grow your teams, and why it's robbing you of peace. And when I was able to like articulate that, I think a lot of people who had large businesses were like, I had no idea that how I handle stress, especially the fight types where they are like the problem solvers, oftentimes they are the ones struggling to delegate. Yeah. They're struggling to give the projects off to the right people. And so they become the bottleneck in their business, and then it slows down the business. So I could that's a whole nother episode of how I can talk about how each particular stress response can impede your leadership in the business space. It also like, we did our Breakthrough Live event,
Yeah.
and
So good.
what was interesting was there was a lot of couples there, and so we talked about these stress types and these stress responses, and all that's happening is when our body is flooded with a stress hormone, all that's trying to happen on a very physiological level is our body's trying to, eliminate the threat, like get away from the grizzly bear and establish safety. Like, how can I feel safe? How can I, run away from the threat and find safety for myself again? And so, and everyone has their response. But one of the things we talked about there is like, hey, oftentimes when you see somebody in like being short or snappy or, scrolling on their phone, disengaging from something, or, not enforcing a boundary, and you're watching it erode their mental health or how they're connecting with others. It's not like, oh, that's just who they are. It's like, wait, hold on. What's happening is that person this is how they are trying to, settle the internal chaos they are feeling. And this is how they're trying to establish safety. So even in marriages, when we can understand, oh, you're a fight type, I can understand that how you try to establish safety and how you try to mitigate stress is very different than how I would. But the thing is, we're both, no matter our approach, what we're both trying to do is feel safe. What we're both trying to do is regulate stress.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's 100% true. And I think when we did our Breakthrough Live, we had some couples talk through that and have some realizations on how
huge.
how each of the in the partnership were handling their stress. And it was pretty eye-opening for them to understand, like, this is what I'm doing. And this is why, one, it's awareness on their part to understand what they're doing in response to their stress, but also it was enlightening in the sense of it allowed awareness for them to understand why their partner was upset with them.
Yes.
And it gave the partner a lens to see why their partner, I'm using partner a lot, is responding in a certain way. So, and all involved, it was like very eye-opening. And I could see so that's just one case in point in one example in terms of just a marriage, but like you could see how that could play out even in a business circle or in a family or in a neighborhood or on the block or on a sports team. Like all these ways that we handle stress gives us not just eyes for ourselves, it gives us an understanding of how someone else is responding to life and the stress in their life, and also why I won't engage in a certain way. And that's creating potential, headbutting or conflict or an inability to, see on the same wavelength. Like you're having the same conversation, but neither is feeling understood. I think there's a lot to say there in the sense of how these stress responses that really we've just, whether it's served you or not, is not the point in the awareness part, because your body has found a way, your mind has found a way to deal with the stress.
Yeah.
And it's serving you in the sense of it's keeping you safe. But what we're trying to say today is like there's an awareness that needs to come to place to say, hey, that stress response could be what's putting you in that repetitive loop of keeping you stuck.
Yes.
And it's serving you in the sense that it's keeping you safe. But if you're wanting a change, if you're wanting to, break through that ceiling, or if you want to add that habit, or you're wanting to show up differently in relationships, then we have to come to a point where like, wow, this is no longer serving me.
Yeah. And it's easier said than done, because it's like, then, okay. So when people hear this, then people are like, okay, how do I stop doing this? And I have good news and bad news, because they're like, okay, I just need to make this stop happening. I'm like, that's going to be impossible, because this is simply how your body is wired to adapt to stress. Like this is how your body handles stress. That response is always going to be there. Like the initial knee jerk, like the problem solver is always going to have the propensity to be the problem solver. The fight type is naturally always going to want to have that response. The work is not to stop being that person. The work is not to be like, all right, I just need to not not have that stress anymore.
Yeah.
I need to like, how do I, conquer this or fix this or never deal with this again? And I've had to tell people because they're like, all right, cool, I'm going to go fix this about myself. I'm like, no. What this is you're going to bring awareness to it. You're going to understand when the stressor kicks in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to learn to regulate that stress, meaning you're going to learn to breathe. You're going to take a pause. You're going to neutralize the threat in your body, how your body's perceiving the thing. And then from there, you'll be able to make a different decision that gets you out of your loop. And so the first part, like the trigger, like the thing that's the stressor, the thing that stresses you out and your initial knee-jerk response, that's always going to be the same. But what we learn to train is how what we do from there.
Yeah, I think it's really important. We didn't really talk about this, but when we talk about this awareness, it's our default response.
Yes.
At the instant that stress hits us. This
Correct.
is not like I've sat on this for 5 days and I'm now relaxed and I went on vacation so I could remove myself from the scenario. No, this is like
your knee jerk.
Knee jerk. Email just dropped in your inbox. It's whatever it is that's going to trigger you. Maybe it's an angry email or whatever.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing that comes to your
mind that you want to do?
Yeah.
Like what's your knee jerk? I got to do this.
So in the activated state is what we've talked about.
Yeah, it is an activated state. And so understanding like what you actually learn to do is create a strategic pause between the stressor and your response.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when there is not a pause, you're just all you're doing is constantly reacting to the stressors around you. And that is a very exhausting way to be. That is the life of default. That is the life of, if you are constantly reacting to everything around you, but you have not learned to pause, take a second, breathe, and then be able to choose differently. That's what we are talking about, because that is what I was seeing over and over again with thousands of students is just, from the last thing. And as I was kind of watching all these other, how it was showing up in every other pattern in their life or area of their life, we'd be like, oh, the stress response isn't just limited to their business. It's showing up in their with their family, with their health, with how they manage their money, with their marriages. Like it touches every area.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and then so we talk about the awareness piece. We talk about the stress response, the fact that it's part of your wiring and creating a strategic pause. But there's one more thing that's with that we talked a little bit at the very beginning about. Sometimes we get activated and we go, some of us, if we're in the fight category, right? If that's our response, we go and we throw spaghetti out there, right? We just try and hunt for something to fix it.
Yeah.
And so there's one more piece that comes with after this strategic pause is there is what we've developed is a set of tools that are specifically designed to work with your stress response.
Specific stress type. So for example, this is why personal growth and habits and all of those things cannot be a one size fits all, because there are so many different unique stress responses that we all have. And so, and you've seen it, because this is where I saw people be like, all right, what do I do? How do I, lose 20 pounds or whatever? And someone will be like, well, this is what I did. And they'll download the same meal plan, get the same health app and all of those things. And that person with the same tools in their hands is unable to get the same results. Why? Well, because they are wired differently. Because the person that handed them the tools might not be somebody who runs to food when they are stressed. So that already is a hurdle that person doesn't even have to fight. But the person that might actually have a strong flight response or freeze response or something where they go to food to soothe, that person has a different set of tools that they will need in order to, be healthy. Yeah. And so this is why it's not a one size fits all. This is why you can't just, give the same, hack to each person, because each person responds differently. So
yeah, and I think if we sit with that, we can really see and understand that. I mean, we think about how if we have kids, none of them are parented the same, right? One thing that works with one kid totally just blows up in your face with the other kid.
Yeah.
Or we think about learning the way people learn.
Yes.
And how that's so different even in a school environment. There's certain kids that maybe you have one of them I think we have one of them that just struggles to sit still in the classroom. And that makes learning in the traditional sense and how we do it in public school very, very, very difficult. And so it's similar in this is like someone's stress response is going to need a different set of tools
Yes.
for how to regulate, how to cope, how to move forward, how to break loops. And so that's part of it is like, we want to bring awareness to what we really think is hidden. I think a lot of people don't realize this on how they respond to the knee jerk, right? And so bringing awareness to their stress response. And then we've identified about 10 specific drilled down from there personalities, if you will, stress response personalities.
Yeah.
And the tools that can help go with that.
Yeah. We call it, and it was based on the grant study by Happy Well, for Happy Well, the Happy Well life that we've talked about so much. And one of the number one indicators of someone having success in their life was their emotional resilience or their ability to adapt to stress. So your, kind of your signature stress response is your way of adapting to stress. This is why we call it the adaptive personality type. And there's 10 different types. It's being like, it is not personality. It is not diagnostic. It is meant to simply understand this is my propensity or this is my tendency to how I seek safety when I feel stress, period. But when we understand that, then we actually we can start to see all of our patterns. And so we built this quiz where people can learn, first of all, they learn where are they in the first four? Like, are you fight, flight, fawn, or freeze? And then from there, there's 2 to 3 subtypes within each category because it looks different for each person. So we built a free quiz. We'll have that linked in the show notes, but this is why we built the company. It's called Sonder. And essentially it's, the reason why we call it that is Sonder means it's the realization that everyone around you is living a life as complex as your own. You have your own complex inner world. And everyone else around you does too. And then era, the start of a new chapter, the marking of something new. And so we knew that we're like, this is the key is how do we actually teach people how to build emotional resilience, or if you're like, I don't have emotions, that's cool. Stress resilience. How do we teach people to do this so that they can actually start making real change in their life and across every area? Because if you can learn to notice when you are about to go into an old pattern, when you notice the pattern, you can pause the pattern. Then we have the opportunity to rewire or change from our default responses.
Yeah, that's so good. And, I'll just add one more thing about the word Sonder, right? The idea that everyone's living a complex life. Mm-hmm. But the part of that I love the most is that everyone's living a complex life, just as complex as yours, where you're the main character in yours, but you're the background character in everyone else's.
Yeah.
And so the reason I really, really like that, and I want to point that out, is because this work is not just personal. This work has implications for the community in which we find ourselves. Mm. Right? So whether that is maybe you're actually in community, which we would say is part of the Happy Well metrics from the grant study, but also on the block that you live in, sports teams that you find yourself in, school connections that you have from kids or whatever. But even if you're not in any of those and you're like, I have no impact on the community, I would argue that every time you go to the grocery store, every time you get in a car and drive, every time you order something at Starbucks, how you're dealing with your stress response could be a positive encounter with someone else or a very, very negative one.
Oh, 100%. There have been times I've been like, I'll never forget. There have been times when I've been our donut lady.
Oh, easy.
In our ski town.
Yeah.
I'm not going to light her up on the internet, but I'm like, there's some times where we've been like,
you can tell that
the stress of the day has really impacted how she interacts with her customers.
I will say though, the last 2 times I've been very, very pleasant.
I'm so glad.
I think it's potentially because
there was no crowds or tourists.
Yeah, I think I think peak season had passed. But I think we understand that. I'll never forget. I was with my dad one time. This is years ago. I think I was like 9. This is a very long time ago. And we were at a car dealership. And my dad we were looking at a van. If my dad's listening, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. we were looking at a van and looking at the sticker, and it had 2 different stickers because it was a aftermarket.
Yeah.
You know, there was the like straight off the line price, and then there was the aftermarket add-on prices. And my dad was looking at the sticker, and he's like, "Is this the price?" And it was the off the line price, not the additions price.
Yeah.
And the sales guy, like, he lost it. I mean, it was very strange in the sense
Weird.
of we had been talking to him for maybe 2 minutes, and it was probably the only question I remember asking. And he was very unhappy with our inability to understand the price of the vehicle.
Oh my.
He started yelling and screaming at us. And so I just think about like understanding your stress response is not, yes, I think it's important for our own well-being, but gosh, could you imagine what the world would be like if if everyone had a little bit more awareness?
Oh, Scott, I have been saying this to people because, in our community, one of the things we offer is you can work with a coach. And, so as we're onboarding our new people that are going to be working with their Sonder coaches, they've just been, mind you, we've only been live for like 2 weeks.
I think it's like,
I don't know,
12 days or something.
It is so fresh.
Yeah.
It's so fresh, but people are interacting with the tools. And what we keep hearing is like, everybody needs to have this. Every single person. And by the way, the membership is only $19 a month at this point in time, at the point of recording. And it's like, but I'm just like, listen, it's like, I'm convinced, you cannot convince me otherwise, that I actually think if everybody did this work, we could actually achieve world peace. I feel like that's very miscongeniality. Like, and I really do want world peace, but I'm like, but tell me, if everybody was able to regulate their emotions, regulate their stress response, pause, take a minute before they acted, how many like family blowups could be avoided? How many marriages could be healthier? How many parenting interactions we have with our children can be soft and safe? And to give an example of what you said is, someone at our Breakthrough Live event, it was a father, and he got up and said, I'm seeing how my stress response is directly impacting how I'm raising my son. And this is not the father I want to be.
Yeah.
And it was a really, I have goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, it was an incredibly powerful moment for him to just see that and own that and be like, this is going to change. And he is not the only man that stood up in that room and like pretty much knocked me on the floor with their honesty and their vulnerability and the things that they were willing to be like, I can now see and trace how my stress response, even one guy was like, how I connect with my wife. I'm totally disconnected from my wife.
I think the one that really hit me was like, the husband that was saying, he felt like he doesn't have any real friendships and connections. And he's realizing because he has a fawn response, and he's always showing up in the midst of people's conflicts and so forth, and never really allowing himself to be truly known. Yeah. And I thought that was just like,
no. Oh, well, he noticed that he noticed that he has a propensity to only form friendships with people who need something from him.
Yeah,
because that's how he feels his sense of belonging in the world. And so because of that, he's like, I don't know how to form healthy friendships with people who might not actually need something from me. Like the room, you could hear a pin drop. It was such a powerful insight. And I was like, how many people can also share that story, being like, I don't know what I would bring to the table unless I'm fixing someone's problem.
Man, that sounds like, I think a couple of weeks ago we did a podcast that we were talking about retirement and why top execs probably struggle with retirement was because all of a sudden their identity's a little lost and gone. I wonder how much of it is because of that fawn type. I don't know what I am if no one needs something from me.
Well, that or
something to offer.
Oh, for sure. Or like, what if there's no problems left for me to solve? What if I'm no longer the person people look to solve things in a crisis, to be the fighter, the fight type? Like, what is my value if I'm not always the one in control and solving and picking up the slack and all those things? What if it all really does? This is why change is so hard, because oftentimes we receive the illusion of safety, security, and belonging when we are not operating, sometimes when we're operating in unhealth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, because we talk about the idea that the brain seeks familiar.
Yes.
And familiar is safe. We talked about this, I think, last week.
Yeah.
That the unknown is unfamiliar and therefore unsafe, even if it actually is the safest, the safest thing for you to move into.
Yes. Yeah.
And man, okay.
All right.
So
should we do like happy well homework?
yes. Do you want you did the sound last time?
Okay. Do. The happy well homework.
I'm just waiting for the comments to drop it.
Yeah.
About the jingle. It's like your guys' jingle for Happy Well Homework needs some happy
We're
well
aware.
homework.
It's very early in our journey. All right, guys. It's like what? Only episode like 11 or 12? Like, come on, y'all.
Yeah. Okay. I think Happy Well Homework, I think goes without saying, is to take our APT quiz, the Adaptive Personality Type Quiz. And it's free. And we'll put a link in the show notes or in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. And we really encourage you to take that. And I think the only thing that maybe needs to be the preface for that is as you take this, trying to think about you in an activated, stressful scenario.
Yeah.
Like, I think we said this at our live event was like, if you're getting chased by a grizzly bear, you're not pulling out a spreadsheet and doing a pros cons list.
You're not doing that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You have to think about, it's funny because I did it with my mom and she kept thinking, she's in a calm state while she's taking the quiz. So she's choosing her answers from that place. I'm like, no. I was like, and I would have to give her scenarios. I was like, listen, this just happened. Like you're totally freaked out, stressed out. She's like, oh yeah, I do that. So just go back to something that feels like and I think sometimes if you have done some work, if you're someone who is quite self-aware, you might have to be like, okay, who am I? I like this test. Who am I when I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? What might my response be?
Yeah, say that again.
Halt. It's hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yeah, it's good.
What might my response be if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired with this question? And that will likely be your most honest response. So, enjoy it, have fun with it, take that free quiz. I'll say another just quick little thing you can do is just when you notice that internal chaos kick in, when you notice like the activated state, if you could just develop a pause, if you could just take 3 seconds, literally that's it. And it could be that quick for you to be like, hold on, I'm just going to breathe. If you could just breathe for 3 seconds.
Belly breath.
A belly breath.
Not a chest breath.
No, yeah, because that's like, like fill up your belly like it's a hot air balloon. Yep. And then just for 3 seconds, just if you could do that 3 seconds, the likelihood of you actually changing your pattern exponentially goes up from you being in a reactive state to just being able to respond. So just take a breath, take a beat, take the free quiz.
Yeah. So that quiz, the link will be in the description or in the show notes. And we encourage you to do it. It's our APT free quiz on our site, sonderalife.com. And we look forward to hearing how that impacts you, what ahas you might have. So thanks for joining us today at our Pursuit of Happy Well podcast. Also, if you're not in there yet, we do have a free Facebook community for the podcast. We'd love for you to join in there. And maybe what you do is you take the quiz and you jump into that community and you just say, hey, here's my results. Where
my fighters
Where
at?
my fighters at?
Yep.
I'm excited for the conversations that come out of there.
We'll see you next time.